Hi everyone, and welcome to Cooking with Cricket. On today's episode, I'm going to show you how I make my homemade cheese biscuits. One evening I had my goddaughter Star and my Aunt Marilyn over, and I made the cheese biscuits, and they fell in love with them and asked me to show them how to make them. So this is for y'all. Hope you enjoy. For our cheese biscuits, we're going to need some self-rising flour. That's 3 cups, and to me, I use a good name brand because to me that makes a better tasting biscuit. And I also store my flour in the freezer. I store my flour and my cornmeal in the freezer because that keeps anything from getting into it. We need around 1 cup of milk. I'm using whole milk, but you can use buttermilk, 2% milk, any kind is fine. We need our 1/4 cup of solid vegetable shortening plus 2 tablespoons of butter. These do not need to be at room temperature. We're going to need some garlic powder, not garlic salt, but garlic powder, and some shredded cheese. I'm using the sharp cheddar. You can use mild cheddar. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to show you how I get my biscuits ready before I add the cheese. Just kind of loosen it up a little bit. Get it level. I put 3 cups in my sifter. And then remove around 1 cup of it. Put it in a separate bowl. Add your shortening and your butter. You can use a pastry blender, but I just use a fork. You really want to get in there and get all of that shortening and butter crumbled up into real small pieces to where it about looks like cornmeal. Alright, this is the consistency that you want to look for. You don't have any big pieces of the butter or the shortening in there. Now we're going to add our garlic powder. We are only adding 1/2 teaspoon, just 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. You're really not going to be able to really taste this a lot, but it just gives it just goes good with the cheese. Mix that in real well. Now we're going to add our cheese. I'm adding 1.5 cups of shredded cheese. Really get that mixed well and coated with the flour. And now we're going to add the milk. Do not add this whole cup at once. We might need it all. We might not use it all. It's just according on different days. Some days I use a whole cup plus add a little bit more. Some days I don't. But I start off by adding about 1/2 cup of the milk. And then just add little bits at a time till you get it to the consistency that you're looking for. We kind of want it to be a little bit sticky. And that's kind of what you're looking for. It's still sticky. So I'm going to go get cleaned up and show you how I roll these out. You can do this by hand. Take, and flour your hands real good. Roll it in your hands and place it on your sheet. But I'm going to cut mine out. So I'll be right back. For your cheese biscuits, get you a baking sheet and line this with some tin foil and grease it real good because it's got cheese in it and it's more than likely gonna stick. I even have mine lined with a non-stick foil, but I still go ahead and grease it anyway. I'm gonna be rolling mine out on the table, but first I use plastic wrap, and if you'll wet your table or work surface down, it will stick to the table and you won't have to worry about it moving around. Take your flour that you took out, sprinkle a good bit on there, flour up your hands. Once you do that, it's going to get real sticky, and just dip your hands in the flour again. Sprinkle a little bit on top. And we're just going to kind of pat this down. Dip it in some flour. And you want to go along the edge. Press down. Kind of move it around. And there's one biscuit. For your scraps of dough, just bring them all back together. Don't really want to work this dough too much. Press it back down. Alright, I got 19 biscuits out of mine. I could have made 20. I had this much dough left over. You do want your biscuits touching each other in the pan. And you might get less if your biscuits are bigger. You might get more if they're smaller. When you get them to this point, you can always make ahead of time. These are for my dinner tonight, so I'm going to cover these with foil. Put them in the refrigerator. And they'll sit there for a few hours till I get ready to cook them. But place these in a preheated 425 degree oven in the middle rack. I'll show you what they look like when they're done and how long it took mine to bake. My cheese biscuits took 13 minutes to cook. And that's what they look like. If you have any left over, just wrap them up, put them in the refrigerator. The next morning, wrap them with a paper towel, put them in the microwave for a few seconds, and mine are always still real good and moist. That's what they look like on the bottom. I hope you enjoy.